Hey, did you know that StoneBridge is all about sharing Christ and building believers?
Well, yeah, everybody knows that.
Well, did you know that King David was an avid bird watcher?
StoneBridge Christian Church, sharing Christ and, well, you know.
Good morning. Some of you right now are getting nervous about having your kids in the service. We are in the middle of a message series taking a look at some of the greatest teachings of Jesus. And some of the stuff that we're taking a look at this week this next several weeks, seems like it just seems so yeah, everybody knows this. You don't even have to be a Christian to know that these things are out of bounds for people. And so it's like, well, no kidding. Yeah, like last week we talked about murder. And like, no kidding, murder is way out of bounds. And Jesus said, well, yeah, everybody knows that. But I tell you, let's not even get angry at another person. And we think that's somewhat kind of ridiculous. We think, well, gosh, how am I supposed to do that? And I'm glad he started with anger, because it really starts with that. That's the first domino in messing up all kinds of relationships. If all of a sudden, and it doesn't take much, but all of a sudden it starts to unfold that way. And he says, let's just not, in the kingdom of heaven, let's not have anger a part of our relationships. So now he's taking it to another level in Matthew chapter 5, 27 through 30. You have heard the commandment that says you must not commit adultery. Yeah, got it. No problem. Haven't done it. Cool. We're good. But I say anyone who even looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery within her heart. What? Okay. What? Well, how am I supposed to do that? I don't know if you've seen what these guys, what? How am I? So then he goes, well, if your eye, even your good eye, which I think is kind of funny. Like, yeah, my one good eye caused you to lust, gouge it out and throw it away. It's better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your hand, even your stronger hand, caused you to sin, cut it off, throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown in hell. Now, I know when we talk about this passage today, there's a whole wide gamut of folks here. And so if you're single, you're looking at this passage maybe in a different way, like, okay, well, I'm not married, so I can't do the adultery thing. I'm not married. Okay. But are you telling me what? And then if you're married, you're like, oh, okay. And we understand if you're married that the adultery is way out of bounds, and you know the suffering probably of what happens when somebody steps out of bounds on this area. Maybe personally you have stepped out and you're trying to figure it out and get back, and maybe you're on the receiving end. Maybe you've just watched your friends deal with this and seen how destructive this sin can be in a marriage. Maybe you haven't committed adultery, but you're considering it. I mean, if you have the opportunity, I mean, if she just or he, it'll happen. When two people walk down the aisle and they say these words, I promise to love, care, comfort, defend, be faithful to you as long as I live, right? And they head off on that Caribbean cruise. It is not in their head or in their heart, right, that anything ever is going to. But then within a couple of years, all of a sudden, we're fantasizing about other people. How could it ever lead to that? Well, again, it's just some triggers that start. Even before lust starts, it might be a couple that doesn't deal with stuff very well and lets things kind of move in and fester a little bit, and that anger thing ramps it up a little bit more. And it might have just been as stupid as like the toothpaste thing, like she squeezes it wrong, right? How can you not squeeze it from the behind? How can you can you just squeeze it the right way? And and it's a little thing, and you talked about it, but she doesn't care, and it's like, I'll show you, I'll squeeze wherever I want. And all of a sudden, you just, or he doesn't pick up the jacket, he just throws it and whatever, and like, really, you're just going to leave the jacket there? And all of a sudden, World War III breaks out. Maybe it's just a little dig. It's not a big deal, but maybe, a husband and wife are talking, and it's their 15th wedding anniversary. And so he says to her, hey, where do you want to celebrate? And she says, well, I don't know. How about someplace we never go? He says, okay, let's go in the kitchen then. Now, have you ever been in those awkward places okay, I'm not sure this is going, right? And you think, I wonder if your friends are saying that, and you kind of pick up on that, and you think, well, I wonder what the sexual temperature in the house is. It's probably pretty cold. Instead of oneness, there's this departure. It's just a little bit. It didn't start out, but there's more TV watching now, or maybe more time spent at the gym, maybe more time getting lost in a novel, more time at a computer, and very little connection is taking place, and you're slowly being drawn. You're slowly being drawn into a fantasy world where you play it out in your mind. Anger is the first domino to fall, and then lust happens after that, not very long after that. You probably would agree with me that sexual temptation is everywhere. I mean, it is everywhere now. Recently, some high-profile celebrities, their nude pictures were hacked by somebody and spread all over the internet, and they were all upset about it. And I was like, yeah, no kidding, because it's a personal thing. And that's, it's just terrible that would happen. Jennifer Lawrence, made this statement after that, and she said this, either your boyfriend is going to look at porn or he's going to look at you. That's why I sent it. What? She said that they were in a healthy and committed relationship at the time, so sending nude pictures made sense to her, and she knew her boyfriend was going to look at somebody naked, so she wanted it to be her. Junior high and high school kids are sending nude photos to each other, and they're shocked that this stuff gets put out all over the place. That's not, he's like, whoa, Jesus, I think he's like, whoa, I know that's not adultery, but that's certainly in that middle of lust section. So when Jesus teaches with this subject, he's dealing with people who are patting themselves on the back saying, hey, we've not committed adultery. We're not committed adultery. We don't have any problem with that. I've been faithful. I've always stayed faithful. But Jesus knew something. He knew that you could violate this commandment and stay fully clothed. That you didn't have to get naked, but you violated this commandment. Now, Jesus is not saying that when you become a Christian and you're in the kingdom of heaven, you're never going to have sexual desires. We are wired up that way. And it's not wrong to find somebody who is attractive. That's not adultery in your heart. But when the look becomes another look and turns the corner, when it becomes more than that, he says that's not the kind of life that people in the kingdom of God have. The advent of the internet has made this super easy now. Anybody with a computer or a phone can find their way into a lot of mess. And parents, if your kid has a smartphone and you are not paying attention to that, you are super naive and super stupid, because they will find their way, or their friends will, and it's no longer relegated to some older kid's bedroom or some little seedy place in Council Bluffs. It's not. It is everywhere. Facebook is making it super easy to connect with people, and all of a sudden it starts to make you feel a little bit more valued and a little bit more cherished. And a wife who's wrestling with anger and contempt with her husband in her marriage finds comfort and companionship with a friend. A husband who's frustrated and is hurt finds warmth and encouragement. This is not a 20-something struggle. I've talked with so many men who are retired, who are being pressured by women to have sex. It surprises me. Not the sex part. But it's surprising to me how aggressive these women are. None of us in this room, and I don't care any age or sex, that we're exempt from this struggle. It's not a guy thing. It's like, oh, guys have all this. No. It's not just, okay, well, that's how guys are. It's pretty serious stuff. Now, before you take this step, let me point out that Jesus is not straying. If you struggle with lust, the answer to that is to poke your eye out. That's not his, or if you struggle with lust, let's cut off our arms. Now, if that was the case, we'd all be blind. We'd be like, how am I supposed to navigate now? And by the way, if you poke out your eyes and cut off your hands, you still can struggle with lust. You don't have to be able to see it, right? All you got to do is to imagine it. No one really sets out to have an affair. Nobody wakes up in the morning thinking, hey, today's the day. I'm going to cheat on my husband. Never done it, but I think I'll give it a try. You don't do that. Every day it seems like we hear about a celebrity or a politician or a pastor that's fallen into temptation, had an affair, and it's stupid to think that it could never happen to you and me. So I think Jesus is saying it's going to take some drastic steps on our part. Now, I've shared with you before some of the drastic measures that I have placed in my life to help me with this, and I want to share with you some of those again today, and I've added more. I never meet alone with a woman who's not my wife or my mom. I don't even really like doing it with my mom. Pretty sure I'm going to be in trouble. Now, the key word is alone. I meet with women, and we do that, and I might be in a car with some of them. It's like, here we go. We're going to this. But the key word is alone. Even if I have a counseling appointment with a woman, the door is open a little bit. I rarely will meet with a woman after hours. Certainly, if there's nobody else in the building, that it's not going to happen. Never going to happen. It's not a good idea, and so that's just there for me. I won't ride in a car with a woman alone. Recently, I was going to a meeting across town, and I knew this gal was going to the meeting, and she knew I was going to the meeting, and it would have made sense for us to both ride together because it was quite a ways, but I didn't call her and say, hey, would you like to ride together? And she didn't call me and say that. And when I saw her at the meeting, she said, I was going to call you and ask you if you wanted to go, but I knew you'd say no. I said, yeah, I probably would have. And I appreciated that. She was right. I try not to conduct very personal or intimate conversations with women anymore. I refer most of the time conversations, if you're calling for counseling or help, it doesn't take me very long to say, I think you need to talk with, and we have some women pastors on our staff that I refer folks to. And oftentimes it's kind of interesting, the pushing that goes from the other end. Well, no, I want to meet with you. And I'm like, no, but I don't want to meet with you. Right? Because you're vulnerable. You're going to want to share sensitive stuff. You're going to want to share things that, right? And I'm not going to be able to do that. And I know people are like, well, then just get over yourself. Who do you think you are? You think you're hot stuff? And no, I think she might be. Right? I don't want to be in a situation where that's going to happen. I don't want to put that in. That's drastic. I'm cutting my eye. I'm poking my eye out. Right? It's just being smart. I don't want to be stupid. I'm super careful with the online conversations I have with women. I'm recently on Facebook and on Twitter, and it really made me super nervous about this. And when I started getting, direct messages, and I was like, oh, how do I deal with this? And I asked the gals on our staff, is it appropriate for me to? And they're like, what? I was like, how do I do this? And now if it's like a direct message, unless it's like, hey, I want to buy one of your photos, it's like, you can get a hold of me at the office. Here's my hours. And that take care of it for me. even that, like, well, should I friend them? Can I friend them? Can I do that? And like, I don't know what I'm doing. And they're like, be very careful with that. And like, okay. And so if I send a friend request, it's usually because I know your husband, right? Or he's on Facebook. I'm already friends with him, or all that kind of stuff. Or it's a church thing. So it's just weird for me. But that's another thing, a drastic measure. I try not to stare at women. And when an attractive woman catches my eye, I try to bounce it somewhere else. I just know that if I don't do that, it leads to places. If you don't think that's true, just ask this guy, 2 Samuel 11:2. Late one afternoon after his midday rest, what? First of all, who does that? Well, I guess if you're the king, you don't have a whole lot to do. David got out of bed midday and was walking on the roof of the palace, and he looked over the city. He noticed a woman of unusual beauty taking a bath. Now, we know what happens after that. It wasn't the first glance that was the problem for David. It was the second. The first glance didn't get him in trouble. It was the second. He kept looking. He's like, right? And then he says, well, hey, could you go get her for me? You're like, what? Yeah, and he sent servants out to do this. Can you see if she likes me or not? I don't know. Can you tell her? Come on over. And then we find out that he has sex with her. She's pregnant. He has her husband killed in a very, very short period of time. It just was because he decided to stare. One of the things I try to keep in mind most of the time is that I have 2 boys, and I don't want to disappoint them that by being unfaithful to their mom. That is a big deterrent for me. I love this church a lot. I would not want to injure what God is doing here at StoneBridge in any way. I've seen this sin affect churches over and over and over again. It just takes it takes a long time for a church to recover from this. I can tell you 3 churches in our denomination, in our city, since I've been in Omaha, that have had their pastors have this happen. Whether it's secretary or just somebody in the church. It's always somebody in the church, by the way. All of those churches are still struggling. And they're struggling. And they will. It'll take them. It's super sad. Now, this may sound extreme to you. You may be like, wow, that's ridiculous. I can tell you one person that doesn't sound extreme to. It doesn't sound extreme to my wife. Now, for you, it might be more than this. And okay, I'm going to have to get rid of the movie channels. We don't have those at home. It might include getting rid of dealing with software that blocks porn sites. It might include no longer working out with people of the opposite sex. That's a huge deal. And you're like, well, how am I supposed to do that? I don't know. I don't know how you're supposed to do that. I just know that if you don't, you're going to be in trouble eventually, right? It's just that way. Okay. And here's some things I've heard. By guys, well, I don't think I've ever loved her. I felt like I got pressured into this relationship. I met this other person, and now I think I've found my soulmate. I know what I'm doing isn't right, but I don't care. I don't care anymore. My friends support this decision. My kids even support this decision. Now, maybe you're married and you realize that how vulnerable you are, and now's the time to say to God, before this massive damage takes place, I want to live with a new attitude and a new life. And I'm not willing to pretend anymore. That maybe today is the day we begin to say something like this in Job chapter 31, verse 1. I made a covenant with my eyes not to look with lust at a young woman. Made a covenant. This week I went out to eat. Linda's out of town. She went down to Kansas City with my sister and my mom and a bunch of girls. And so I'm on my own, which means I'm going out to eat. And so I had done the burger things for a few meals, and I'm like, I got to eat healthy. So I went to Elby's. Get some good Mexican food, and I'm thinking this is be sweet. And there's these two guys in the booth right by me. And so not only did I got to write that off because I did sermon research. No, I didn't. But you could hear them, and they're both retired, and they were talking about the servers. Young gals who were wearing shorts. And the one guy says, there's always good-looking women here. And the other guy goes, oh, yeah. And then, it was amazing the conversation I heard. It was somewhat disturbing. And you begin to think that I don't think I'm living in the kingdom of heaven at this moment. You begin to think, well, how are we going to deal with this? That if you want to have a kingdom kind of love for your spouse or your future spouse. Now, if you're single, and I know that we've talked a lot to married folks here today, and singles, don't fool yourself into thinking that that once you get married, then lust won't be a problem. I've heard people like, hey, once I get married, pornography isn't going to be a problem. Well, I believe you bring that with you. You're not leaving that, right? Most people, we're not leaving that at the altar. Oh, by the way, I'm not going to look at porn anymore. Oh, by the way, I'm not going to. It comes with the deal. And so the eye is real to us. You have to begin now to have loving eyes. You have to begin now to have loving eyes, not lusting eyes. Now, maybe you're in a situation today where you've blown it and you don't know if forgiveness will ever happen. Maybe you haven't crossed the line, but you crossed some lines. And you're wondering, see, that why we're talking about this and why we put extreme measures in is that trust is a super fragile thing in any marriage or any relationship, right? You don't even have to be married to know this, that trust is so easily snapped, right? It's just broken. And it's hard, right, at that moment to put Humpty Dumpty back together again because it's a mess. And you might be thinking, well, I didn't do nothing. I didn't do anything. What is your problem? I didn't do nothing. And yet there's this trusting thing and right, and hiding and it's you that got the problem. Well, see, trust is so fragile. And you think, how could, and I truly believe that even if the sin of adultery has been committed in your marriage, that you can recover from that. I've watched that happen over the years. That is not, it doesn't have to be, but it can, you can restore this. It takes work, and trust is there. You can do this. But it's going to take, it's really going to take graduate level love, graduate level forgiveness at that moment. And maybe you're in a dating relationship and it's like, oh, she doesn't trust me. You're like, okay, well, let's find out why that's happening. Maybe you're feeling like this has happened to you and you feel like, I don't know if I could ever love again. It will not come easy for you, by the way, because it is not love that is the problem. Love comes quickly. Trust doesn't. But it can be restored. So perhaps today would be a day to take some drastic measures. It's time. And it's just, these are wisdom kind of issues for us. These are not like, this is wisdom stuff. So I don't know where it is for you and whether you're vulnerable. I tried to share a little bit of things with you. But my guess is you've got some stuff. And when you go here and when you do that, when you dress like this, when this happens, it's all about that, right? And it's like, or when you feel like a little bit of that, like, then, and for me anymore now, the red flags happen so quickly. By the way, I appreciate you guys so much on this area, because I've shared, I don't like to hug women and that kind of stuff. Some of you come up and like, I know you don't like to do this, but anyway, like, okay, and we're doing that, and I'm super fine with that. But just so you know, Um, those those are drastic measures for me, and I'm by the way, I'm cool with that. I'm really cool with it. Doesn't mean I don't like it. Doesn't mean I don't right. It just means I love my wife. That's what that means. I love my wife. So I put these drastic measures in because that's right. I want to be part of the kingdom of God. Now, again, don't know where those drastic measures are for you. It would not take me long to figure that out for you. Would not. It would not take me long at all. We'd have those conversations. And so, if you're like, oh, like after first service, talk with people about this, and it's tough. And it's just, I've been so dumb, I've been so unwise, and I want to let my boyfriend know. And it's like, okay, put these measures into place so he can trust you. Right? You can do this. You can do it. All right, let's pray. Perhaps, Lord, this moment, there's some of us are super struggling with this. This is not a topic we want to deal with. It's just because it's so fresh and so raw, even though it happened 15 years ago. And that's why that hate thing is so fresh. I still hate her. I still hate him. And I'm still struggling with that. How it ruined my marriage or my life or my kids. Messed us all up. So many of us in this room know that pain. We certainly know somebody who's walked through that. Some of us are in a very fragile and very vulnerable place. And what started off as kind of fun and cute is dangerously way past that. And we've played some things out in our head. We thought, we just... And it's just in a spot where we shouldn't be. Lord, I know you've wired us up in certain ways. It makes us vulnerable at times. And I know that Satan uses this temptation in so many ways. There's so many opportunities out there to get our eyes off of each other and on to somebody else. And so... today, would you renew our minds, and we'll make the covenant again with you to keep our eyes away from lust. Do our best with that. And for some of us who are seeking forgiveness issues here today, may we place these right now here at this altar and give them to you to forgive. In Christ's name, amen.